Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great week out there so far. Well, folks, we did it. We have a Category 5 hurricane on our hands out here in the Caribbean. It is literally the earliest calendar year Atlantic Category 5 hurricane on record. The previous record was in 2005 when we had Hurricane Emily. We all know what happened in that historic 2005 hurricane season. We know about Katrina and many other hurricanes that happened in that season. But man, Hurricane Beryl is in a league of its own. It is just doing its thing out here. We thought that it was going to weaken with wind shear by the time we woke up this morning, at least a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. But it actually has strengthened. And from some of the data that we're getting from the hurricane hunters right now, at least about an hour ago, this continues to strengthen. In fact, this might be stronger than what I'm about to tell you it is right at this moment. It seems like that's been the common theme, that I'll drop a video update and then the status of this hurricane will change dramatically. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is any different. But just know that I'm aware of what's going on. Hit me up on my social media platforms. I get you all the latest information there, but I'll always keep you guys updated in the comments, the community tabs, and I will continue to do that for the life of this system and the hurricanes to come. So we're going to break this down. We'll take a look at what's going on with it right now. As you can tell, we'll take different looks at it too. We'll give you the latest information from the National Hurricane Center as far as the latest track info and the intensity info. How much stronger or weaker is it going to be over the next several days? We'll go over all the latest model guidance. And folks, I'm not trying to pump any fear into you folks in the U.S., but I am starting to get more and more concerned about this recurving in the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll talk about the chances of that, all the model guidance that does show that, and that does not show that. Okay, and we'll talk about impacts from our friends like in Jamaica. We even got to watch out for Hispaniola. I mean, we got some outer bands trying to make it into Puerto Rico right now as this continues to track just a little bit further north than the actual cone is saying that it should be tracking. Okay, so we'll talk about all that, and then we'll talk about what's driving such a favorable environment, what could drive this to eventually weaken, and then what could drive it to eventually re-strengthen at some point down the road. So we're going to break all this down. Then, of course, we'll give you information for what's going to happen weather-wise today across the entire lower 48. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank you for the amazing support lately. It's been hard to keep up, but we just been rocking and rolling with it. Thank you for being patient with me, for maybe the hiccups here and there in the videos, and just appreciate you guys supporting me and what I do with this channel. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. We're praying for you folks in the Windward Islands for a fast and speedy recovery for you guys. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is what it looks like right now. Incredibly healthy hurricane. It's a Category 5 hurricane, folks. Okay, we got intense convection that continues to wrap around this, indicated by the colder cloud tops and the blacks and the whites. I mean, even look at this nasty band up here that's probably producing some really bad weather just south of Puerto Rico. But it continues to wrap very well. It's a very, very healthy hurricane. But this is getting impacted, I think, somewhat by some shear on the northwest side of the storm over here. But all in all, not mentioning that, if you look at this, this is a very healthy hurricane. I mean, it's a Category 5. Okay, symmetrical look is outstanding. It's a very healthy hurricane. So let's take another look at it based off the water vapor loop. So it's a different way to look at it. I know I've been showing you tropical tidbits a lot. This is called cyclonic weather, cyclonicwx.com, and then there's tropical tidbits. Guys, all this is free. It's a little difficult to figure out, but all these graphics, I would say 90% of the ones I'm showing you when I'm talking about tropics are free. So definitely, play around the internet if you are interested to look at this kind of stuff that I'm showing you guys. But this is water vapor loop, so it's a little bit better way to look at it, indicated in the greens. That's where there's more moist air, and obviously we got a Category 5 hurricane in the Caribbean, so there's a lot of moist air, right? And then in kind of the brown, blackish shaded colors, that's where we got dry air. So what I want you to notice here, and first off, I will show you this. You see how you still got this nice little fanning outflow out here? Okay, still, somewhat of a, I would still a decent upper wind pattern with this. This is just such a strong hurricane that even a decent upper wind pattern, it's compact, it's protecting itself. So it's really going to take some strong, abrupt shear to really hit this storm to get dry air in it. Okay, but still, you got a little bit of an outflow shooting down here. and fanning out. But if you look right into here, you're not going to be able to tell. I'm going to tell you that right off the dot. In fact, I mean, honestly, it's hardly even worth mentioning. But this is going to encounter some westerly shear that's going to impact the northwestern side of the storm. And I think the northwestern side of the storm is getting impacted by some shear. And one thing I want to watch out over the next several hours is if the convection, the moist air kind of on this side of the storm starts to get kind of ate up, and you start to see less of those greens, or depending on what kind of output you're looking at, some of the whites. But what we are looking for over the next several hours is a little bit of weakening because of some shear. But guys, it's not Mitch saying it's going to weaken, because Mitch and many others have been wrong about this system's strength. It has continued to be stronger, okay, than what we've been thinking it was going to be all along. It's a 165 mile per hour hurricane. By the time I upload this video, it might be 170, 175 mile per hour hurricane. The hurricane hunters found even stronger winds in it about an hour ago. Okay, so very, very healthy hurricane still this morning, even though it's about to enter more of a somewhat more of an unfavorable environment ahead. So let's take a look at the latest model guidance that we have, and let's update this to see if we got anything new. It's a 165 mile per hour hurricane. If you see me look down at all, I'm trying to look at updates from my phone to see if I can catch an update from the National Hurricane Center that does drop here in about 30 to 45 minutes. So I just want to reiterate this. This could get bumped up to a 170 to 175 mile per hour Category 5 hurricane. But despite what you see on these crazy TikTok, Facebook videos, I see this so much. I've seen it more already this hurricane season than ever. There's no such thing as a Category 6 hurricane. It only goes up to 5. And then you can get just a stronger and stronger Category 5 hurricane. This could get bumped up to 170 to 175 here in the next update in about 30 to 45 minutes. Regardless, it still is a Category 5 hurricane. And everything I'm about to talk to you about, nothing really changes. Things will change throughout the day as we have to watch to see if this eye of this hurricane continues to track a tick more north than what it's showing. But I'm going to give you all the model guidance and explain to you what I think it potentially could do, at least in the short term. But for the 80th time, it's a 165 mile per hour Category 5 hurricane. It's really gotten large also. They're saying by this afternoon, this will weaken back to a high-end Category 4, 155 mile per hour hurricane. But I could still see it being a Category 4 hurricane. I could still see it being a Category 5 hurricane this afternoon instead of a Category 4. Okay, this has gotten close enough to the southern shorelines of the Dominican Republic and Haiti to prompt tropical storm warnings. But folks, I wouldn't be surprised if they start to put some hurricane watches up, okay, for the southern shorelines of Hispaniola. So if you live in this area and you're tuning in, let me know. They might put hurricane watches up, maybe some hurricane warnings. This is coming up fast, and if this continues to move north of track, this is going to bring, look at the outer bands heading right towards Hispaniola, okay? By the time that we're at about 2 a.m. tonight, it's still a Category 4 hurricane. And, my friends here in Jamaica are begging for this thing to weaken at this point, okay? Between, the wee hours of the morning tonight into all tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday, they are now forecasting this to still be a Category 3 major hurricane. A higher end Category 3 major hurricane too. Well, I would say a mid-grade. Okay, either way, 120 mile per hour hurricane. Hurricane warnings up in the red for all of Jamaica. And we know that there's a higher populated region, higher population in the southern sections of Jamaica. Okay, the southern shoreline of Jamaica is higher populated. Okay, so we think the worst of these conditions are going to be on the southern side of Jamaica. Category 3 hurricane. All right. How close is the actual inner eye wall of this hurricane going to get to the southern shoreline of Jamaica? Will this go like this, guys? Right into Jamaica. I'm not trying to freak y'all out. I've had a lot of people tuning in from Jamaica, and I appreciate y'all. Everybody's been so kind, too. I really appreciate everybody in the Caribbean being so kind. But guys, there is a chance. Remember, I think yesterday, the kind of the center of the cone was way down here. It's bumped up, okay? It's bumped up close enough to the Cayman Islands where they put hurricane watches up. Still going to be a Category 2 hurricane south of the Cayman Islands tomorrow night. Okay, and then what is it going to do? I'm going to show you all this, but I think this information right here could change. Okay, saying it's going to be still a Category 1 hurricane, make landfall. It could still be a Category 2. Make landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula. I would still watch out down here to Belize. If I said that wrong, I apologize. Even Guatemala, you guys could get some impacts. Honduras, I would still just pay attention to this, but this is ticked a little bit further north. Watch out Cancun. I would really watch out in Cancun. Okay, and then this slips into the southern and southwestern Gulf of Mexico, guys. What is it going to do? Is it going to re-strengthen? Latest cone says, it's going to be a tropical storm, but guys, that's getting into this weekend. I could see that changing a lot more. Here's the more traditional look right here. And I don't know what happened to it. Traditional look from the National Hurricane Center. It's moving still pretty quick at west-northwest at 22 miles per hour. It's moving pretty fast. So there's that traditional look that you typically see on online social media platforms. And I would still watch out in Jamaica. Well, we definitely watch out in Jamaica, but I would still watch out in the Cayman Islands, Hispaniola in the shorter term, and you got to watch out in the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to talk more on that here in a second. But as of right now, this thing, is technically a 935 millibar hurricane, but I think they found even lower pressure in this since. Okay? All right, so let's talk about model guidance. Latest GFS, please do not focus on the strength of this hurricane. Just focus on the track. The GFS is saying that this is almost 50 millibars higher than what it really is. They're just doing terrible as far as the strength. But let's just look at the track. The latest GFS gets right here. I think right into here, it could start to move a little bit more west than that little bit of a northerly motion that it has right now, potentially. Okay, we get into the middle of the night tonight. This is tomorrow morning. The GFS has, don't focus on the strength, has whatever this is strength-wise, making landfall in Jamaica. GFS says, hey, tomorrow, in the next 36 hours, this makes a landfall in southeastern Jamaica. Okay, if you can, I know it's probably hard to see. I can't really zoom in much better in this, but Jamaica, bullseye, hits you guys tomorrow. So GFS is north of that track, right? You continue to move this forward. This is well south of Cuba. It looks like it's about to, kind of ooze between the gap. At the same time, a ridge of high pressure is really strengthening over the southeast. This is basically pushing this to move more east to west. In fact, it might dip a little south. GFS has this as a tropical storm. I think it'll be stronger, making landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula, getting through the Yucatan Peninsula, and then just kind of as a weak system that brings some rain to the Texas coastline. Does not keep it that strong. Okay, what about the European? All right, once again, do not focus on the strength. Gets very close tonight and this evening into tonight to Hispaniola. This is close. All right, if you live along the southern shorelines and southern sections of Hispaniola, Haiti, please be mindful of this. If it gets close enough, it'll actually weaken this storm, especially it being so wide. The cyclonic flow will actually get wrapped into the higher elevations of Hispaniola. Okay, but the European, guys, not only does it hit Jamaica, but it moves a little north of Jamaica. Okay, the model guidance continues to tick a little bit north, be a little bit more north than what the cone is saying. Then that ridge builds over the southeast. This gets kind of pushed and makes it go more so east to west again. Okay, makes landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula. Kind of has the same GFS, it's just a tropical storm. It'll be stronger than that, I think. And then it'll try to strengthen again. And as you can tell, that number's beginning to drop, which indicates a strengthening storm system. And it really just kind of stalls out down here. And then eventually moves into Mexico, like midway next week. Okay? But then you look at the icon. And I know the icon isn't known as a great model for the tropics, but it's still model guidance. The icon is a worst case scenario. Jamaica, it follows kind of the GFS, makes a landfall in Jamaica tomorrow. Okay? Landfall as in the center of this storm hitting, not the outer portion of the storm, the actual center of low pressure, the technical eye, makes a landfall in Jamaica. This continues, makes a landfall as some sort of strength system into the Yucatan Peninsula. And guys, I know that my friends here in the Yucatan, if you're tuning in from that area, you're probably thinking, man, you keep saying some sort of strength. How strong is it going to be? We don't know because it's honestly just watching what's going on with it right now. I hate to be like that, but I would just stick with the colon. It's saying it's going to be a Category 1 hurricane. I think that's reasonable, but it could be stronger, could just be a tropical storm. But look, as this slips into the Gulf of Mexico, look how that number begins to drop on the icon. And all of a sudden, this is as far out as it goes. We get into this coming Saturday night and a Sunday morning. We got a strengthening hurricane inching closer to Texas and Louisiana. As it gets into the Gulf and begins to head north, it feels a weakness, which we'll talk about here in a second. Now, we look at the European ensemble guidance, okay? This makes up 51 members. You're going to see a big spread of L's. They're very clustered up, so you can barely tell that they're L's. And Jamaica's basically right in between all these members, which tells me that you guys, I really think that over the course of today, things are going to... I've seen like 2 or 3 comments saying people aren't taking this that serious in Jamaica. I think that you'll notice people will start to take it a lot more serious today, as model guidance is starting to want to bullseye Jamaica. Okay, Cayman Islands, be aware. Cuba, even be aware, but most of this has it south of Cuba. You got a couple members hitting the extreme southwest tip of Haiti. Okay, a lot of these members crash it into Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula, though. But there's this cluster of members right here that just hits the Yucatan. A couple of them split the gap here between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. But watch as it looks like the system almost begins to slow down as the L's kind of lose their forward kind of momentum, if that makes sense. We get into Saturday morning. Look how these begin to turn. Turn dramatically, almost due north. And folks, you got some strong members here going into Louisiana. I mean, only about 3 or 4 of them. A lot of members trying to get into Texas. And this is something we got to watch. I don't want to use the word concerning, guys. But if I'm in Texas and Louisiana, and really anywhere in the Deep South, because, of course, when this recurves, it'll affect more people, even inland. But I would really pay attention to this, basically from everybody in Central America, Mexico, all the way up to Louisiana, even everybody. Okay, we've seen weird things happen, but model guidance continues to shift here. And if you look at the hurricane, some hurricane model guidance here, another way to look at it, most of them have it just a tick south of Jamaica, but look how they abruptly turn and move into Texas. A couple members trying to get close to Louisiana. Another way to look at this, that's the ensemble mean right there in the black line. I know that's probably kind of small. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Right here. There's kind of the center, kind of the mean of all these other lines, right? The average. But look, if you look really closely here, you see some like red lines, pink lines. Those are the stronger members. The stronger members, okay, remember, a stronger system wants to go poleward. So it wants to gain latitude. It wants to fight against the steering currents more. Okay? So you can even see it here. You see the stronger members in the pink right here in the shorter term, kind of the pink colors are on the north, bluer, weaker ones are on the south. Tells you the story right there. I'm telling you, the stronger this system stays in the shorter term, the more north it's going to go. That's been the common theme, the common chatter out there in the weather community. Okay? Now, we talk about the short-term impacts, and we take a look at some of these hurricane models. I wish I had the time to go through all the hurricane models, but quite honestly, the HMON model, the HAF model, HAF-B, HAF-A, all these are available for free, by the way. The HWRF model, there's a bunch of them. And they both kind of go back and forth with which one is handling a certain system better than the other. Okay, so right now it's initializing this system as around a 940 millibar hurricane, which is weaker than what it actually is. Okay, so all the hurricane models are initializing it weaker. And these hurricane models sometimes can be notorious for really overdoing hurricanes, but sometimes, especially lately, they've done very well, in my opinion. Some of them do worse than others. But, we get to about midday, still maintaining Category 4 to low-end Category 5 status. Okay? I think this will be more spread out than what this is showing. Kind of a weird little glitch in the radar. There's Haiti right there. I think we'll get some banding in the Haiti. And then here comes Jamaica. This specific run, Wednesday afternoon, has the center of the storm going south of Jamaica. Okay? And getting some nasty outer bands and even maybe the outer eye wall. I've said this before and I'll say it again. to really get into the devastating impacts of this storm system, you got to get into the eye wall of this. This is where you're going to see winds in excess of over 100 miles per hour. Okay? Yes, you're going to get some consistent 50, 60, 70 mile per hour winds, in some of these outer bands, especially in the outer eye wall. And even in these outer bands, you can have some very strong wind gusts. But that inner eye wall, I think a lot of people think that a hurricane that, for example, maybe a 130 mile per hour hurricane, they think that, once you're being impacted by the hurricane, they think that you're getting 100, 110 mile per hour winds just right when you're getting hit. It's not the case. You got to really get right up into the center of low pressure, okay, into the eye wall that kind of rotates around the center of the hurricane, okay? But this is where it's saying, this is going to be, okay? And then this gets away, hits the southern Cayman Islands with some outer bands, and then it heads to the Yucatan Peninsula. It makes landfall. Notice that number. Look how it goes from the 970s and it drops back down to the 960s into the 950s. So it re-strengthens in the Western Caribbean after. What we think is going to happen is it's going to weaken in the Central Caribbean. It hasn't done it yet, but it's supposed to because of the shear in place. So we'll talk about more here in a second. Makes landfall, weakens substantially because of land interaction. Then it could begin to strengthen again deep down the Bay of Campeche. But let's back it up here for my friends here in Jamaica. All right. And let's look at a different model run. Here, let's look at the HFA. How close is it on this? It's a little bit closer. Has the banding a little bit closer to the southern sections of Jamaica. But everybody in Jamaica will be impacted. You look at the latest H-Wharf model. Oof. Okay, it has it making just about a landfall in the southern sections of Jamaica. And that's more of a higher populated area of Jamaica. The southern sections of Jamaica, okay, is a Category 4 hurricane. Okay, and let's see. Yeah, this is the latest model guidance too, guys. This was the one prior. Okay, it was south and it's ticked north. All right, so this is concerning for Jamaica. Okay, now if you look at winds here, in the greens and yellows, that's tropical storm force wind gusts, 40 to 70 mile per hour winds. Here comes that wind field. Northern section of that storm looks the strongest, and that's not good because Jamaica will most likely be on the northern side, if not right in it. Wednesday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, guys, you got one more day to prepare for this. The entire area of Jamaica getting full-fledged tropical storm force conditions. Okay. But you look at the latest H-Wharf model. It really wants to bring. Let's look at the latest one. It wants to bring. You see that? You see the purples and pinks here? Folks, that's like 100 mile per hour winds. 100, 120 mile per hour winds hitting the southern sections of Jamaica. You don't want to see that, guys. You don't. And then it looks like it's about to bring at least tropical storm force wind conditions into the Cayman Islands. And I know I'm not talking much about the Yucatan Peninsula, but this thing is tweaking so much in the shorter term. It's just so much better just to focus on the short-term analysis on this storm. Okay? Now let's see what kind of new information we have from this. This is the chance to see hurricane force winds, which is over 74 miles per hour or higher. It's increased to about a 40 to 50, even in some cases a 60% chance to see hurricane force wind gusts. Okay, so this is getting more serious. And then you look at the arrival of winds. Tonight they begin to arrive. After midnight, they begin to arrive in Jamaica. But I really think, as we were getting into tomorrow morning, Jamaica, things go downhill fast. It'll still be a quick moving hurricane. But I would watch out, like I said, in the shorter term before Jamaica, the southern sections of Hispaniola. I really do think you're going to get some nasty impacts from this. Nothing that's going to just devastate you guys, but some nasty outer bands. I think it'll take till about Wednesday afternoon, night to start to see some big impacts in the Cayman Islands. And then the Yucatan Peninsula, it's going to take all the way till Thursday. And then we got to get into the weekend to see what this does into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, a lot of people have asked about rain in areas of Jamaica. Rightfully so, higher elevations. I'll go over some model guidance. This specific model shows... I'll be honest, guys, I'm not sure if y'all measure rain off inches or millimeters in Jamaica, so forgive me for that one. But as far as inches, saying 6 to as much as 9 inches of rain especially on the eastern side of Jamaica, northern side of Jamaica. Okay, this is millimeters here. Okay, this is, what is that? Just about 150 to 200 millimeters of rain. Okay, now you look at the latest GFS. What does it show? All right, latest GFS brings the heaviest rain between Cuba and Jamaica. It actually doesn't bring a ton of rain at all to southern Jamaica, but some of this will shift a lot. And unfortunately, you know, the National Weather Service National Hurricane Center does not have an updated graphic for rainfall from this, which is very odd. It's still stuck on yesterday morning. I'm very surprised they haven't upgraded this. Honestly, I find that very odd, but they haven't. So I want to go back and see if we have a new update, and we do not. Let me look at my phone real quick to see if we got anything. And I'm just doing this, guys, because I just want to bring you guys the latest information. It's very, it's very important to me to do so. See if we have any new changes from the National Hurricane Center. And we do not. There'll probably be an update 10-15 minutes from now. This might get bumped up to 170 to 175 mile per hour hurricane. Okay? But you're talking about the environmental background of this storm. Why? Well, we've talked about over the last 5, 6, 7 days why this has done so well. It's had an excellent upper wind pattern to it. We've had a nice outflow, air pushing out away from this storm. Okay, pushing out this way, pushing out that way, pushing out right here. Okay, it was affected by a little bit of easterly shear at one point on down the road. Well, several days back over the Atlantic. It's not really being affected by that easterly shear anymore. That's not a factor. So it still has a pretty decent upper wind flow to it. Okay, really the thing that's about to start to really affect this system is an interaction with unfavorable trade winds, a tut feature. Some people call it a wave breaker. And a lot of times this thing digs down to the Eastern Caribbean this time of the year, bringing just nasty shear. We call the Eastern Caribbean the graveyard of the Pacific because of that. And it's typically where tropical systems go to die, because a lot of times you'll get these early season tropical systems and then they'll sneak into the Eastern Caribbean and then they'll just get kind of ripped apart. They don't survive. But there's still some shear this is about to encounter, especially from the west. We're going to get some shear kind of moving out of this way. This is going to impact the western side of this storm, okay, as we get some like southwesterly shear. Okay, you can't see it that good in the upper wind pattern, okay? It's not a great example of a tut, but it's here. You can see how you got the favorability here, but it abruptly goes like that, okay? And this is initializing for this morning. Not feeling that a ton right now, but I think it's increasing every hour we get, deeper into this. And as it gets about right here, I think that in the mid-levels, it's dealing with that shear. You can see it here. You see how these streamlines are kind of, abruptly, you see these arrows right here embedded in this line. They're kind of going like this, slashing through this region. This is going to affect our system right in here and hit it with some shear. And I really think it's going to disrupt somewhat the western to northwestern side of this system. Another thing that will disrupt this storm in the shorter term, I think, is the fact that if it gets too close to Hispaniola, it'll interact with landmass right in here. Hispaniola has some high mountaintops. So if this system kind of gets like right just south of Hispaniola, the cyclonic flow over this is going to go over Hispaniola, and I really think its actual circulation will get disrupted a little bit. I think Jamaica will do that too, because there's some higher elevations in Jamaica too. So if this moves right over Jamaica, it's going to interact with that too, and that's something we need to watch. But obviously it moving 20 to 22 miles per hour. It's not going to stay over Jamaica. The center of the storm isn't for too long. But that is the conditions and sort of the short term. We're expecting shear, and we've been expecting this. It's just how much is this going to disrupt this storm? Now, if we kind of go back to this and kind of look forward into the Western Caribbean, I mean, there's a good chance this shear relaxes right in here. All right, hits land, obviously weakens, and then what is going to be the upper wind background of this system once it gets in the Gulf of Mexico? I think it'll have an opportunity to strengthen again. That mixed with the fact that the Gulf of Mexico is one of the warmest bodies of water on Earth. It's like a bathtub, especially as you get into August. So is it going to be way down here like this hurricane model shows? Is it going to be, up here? Where's it going to be? We got to figure that one out. Well, if we're talking about the steering currents of this, I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can. All right. So obviously this is going to be a little tricky to kind of get. So I'm going to try, like I said, to explain it where you guys, the audience, understands. But the blue area, that's lower pressure. Okay. This more orange area, that's higher pressure. Okay. Ridging in place. Stronger ridge influence up here in the eastern U.S. is building in. Okay. Weaker ridge here, but enough to keep this down here and not allow it to turn. All right. So I've been talking about a weakness up here. That weakness is heading on out. Okay, this kind of broke up the ridge somewhat, which has been allowing this to move west-northwest. That's why, if you kind of go back and look, and we will real quick just to kind of show an example of this if you kind of forgot. This is why this is kind of moving like this, like west-northwest. Has a little bit of a northerly motion to it right now. More west than anything, but moving a little bit north. It felt that weakness early on. I think it still is going to feel that weakness over the next several hours as it continues to sort of move west-northwest. And flow around ridging, for example, I'll use this as a better example because it's stronger ridging right here. The flow around the ridge is going to go like this. And then it kind of feels a weakness, and then your flow in the mid-levels are going to go like this, mid-upper levels, okay? Same thing with this weak ridging right into here. This is even ridging right here. It's so weak, it's not getting a color, okay? But the flow around this weak ridging is going like this, okay? So therefore, the storm is taking that path right there. Of course, it might not actually take that exact path. Might go more so like this. It's following the flow that it feels around the southern edge of this ridge. Okay, that's why it's staying in the Caribbean. But remember, I'll reiterate this again, a stronger storm system is going to always go a little bit further north and track. Stronger low pressures like to gain latitude. They like to get polar more. Okay, weaker systems feel currents in the lower levels of the atmosphere. Stronger systems can get pulled more by the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere in the direction they're going. Okay, so we keep this going. All right, I think that it'll still kind of be going west-northwest, more so west than anything. One thing you'll notice is, you're starting to get the building of a ridge. Big weakness over here, but that's long gone because our system is right here at this point. The weakness is gone. It's not going to, do like this and find that weakness. Okay, it's gone. It missed its chance. So now you have a pretty stout ridge of high pressure building over this region. This is still following along this, right? Okay, still tracking this way. Okay, get this off your screen. And we keep this going. The ridge actually builds over this so much that, and I know you can barely see it, but there's still blue here. There's still a system right here. It's just not indicated very well. The flow around this ridge is actually kind of going somewhat like this. This actually might fill this enough to kind of actually notch this almost west-southwest for a period. Some model guidances has this, and you would think, well, if this is moving south at all, there ain't no way it's going to get into the Gulf of Mexico. Well, watch what happens kind of up here. Okay, keep this in motion. All right, there's a trough. You can see kind of the southern edge of this blue. There's a trough that begins to weaken this ridge somewhat over the central U.S. Okay, this system immediately begins to feel this somewhat, especially as it's going over the Yucatan Peninsula. Okay, still got a ridge over the southeastern U.S., but there is a big weakness opening up right here. You don't see that orange anymore, which indicates higher pressure. You're seeing the blue, which indicates lower pressure. That breaks this down. Our system right there begins to feel it. Therefore, it starts to move northwest and head for that opening that it has in the upper level pattern here. Okay, and sure enough, you see the blue start to ooze a little bit further north. How much how much north is it going to go? That's a big question. How much of a weakness is going to open up right here? Ridging is over here. Storm right here. Is this going to feel that weakness? Is it going to feel it so much that it actually begins to curve back northeast? Okay, but that is your weakness. That's a trough digging down, probably going to bring severe weather to the central sections of the country. That is a trough digging down to the central U.S. It's just kind of creating an opening right into here. So I hope I explained that in a way where you guys can understand. Flow around ridging, flow around troughing is different. For example, flow around this ridge is going to go like this. Okay. Flow around this lower pressure is going to go like this. So this might fill it and actually yank it up like that. Low pressure, remember, just like in a tropical system, goes like this. So you still got that cyclonic flow. So yeah, so we just got to watch this to see how it works, guys. It's going to be wild. Certainly figuring this one out. It's going to be tough too. So that's an update on the tropics. Let's give you one last look and see if we got some updated information. And we do not. So we'll continue to kind of watch out for that. And I'm going to put this right here to see if we do get an update anytime, so I can give you some updated information. But what's going on today? And folks, I do apologize for my folks that do tune in for updates on the weather for your day. I've been zooming through it very fast. This video will be no different. It's just got to get to work at the end of the day. But as far as what's happening right now, you got a lot of rain kind of moving across the central portion of the country into the Midwest. Some of this is falling in the form of some stronger storms. You're getting some flash flood warnings in certain areas of Iowa. Just another morning of a lot of rain going across Iowa and Wisconsin. The rest of the country getting a little bit of action south of this boundary. It's brought some very pleasant early July air to areas of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic. I mean, it is pleasant out there. It's in the 60s in my house, which is, you don't see a whole lot this time of the year in South Carolina, even some upper 50s. But we got some rain dancing around here south of this boundary in the southeast, but outside of that, not a whole lot else is going on. A lot of heat alerts out here. Got some excessive heat watches, excessive heat warnings, big time heat starting to build into the western U.S. Heat advisories, again, for areas in the orange, excessive heat warnings in this purple color. It's going to be hot, very hot once again. But you notice you're not getting that in the southeast. It's because we have a quick trough that's cooled down the air mass, dried it out. But it won't stay long, as this air mass you're getting right here will eventually shift by the time we get to the 4th of July to the southeast. Flood watches out for Iowa and northern Minnesota. The excessive rainfall outlook today, there is a slight risk for really right now, but into the next several hours too. That means there's at least a 15% chance of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles in any given location. So be mindful of the flooding risk ongoing right now. But guys, outside the tropics, guys, I mean, there's a legit severe weather risk today in southern Iowa, northern Missouri, areas of northeastern Kansas. An enhanced risk is up, level 3 out of 5. Slight risk extends all the way down into areas of Colorado, Kansas, and the panhandle of Oklahoma. But I mean, Kansas City, you're right on the fringe of that enhanced risk. This almost gets up to Des Moines. But we'll kind of zoom into this area. Everybody else will kind of go through fast. But tornado risk, a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. So this isn't tornado driven, but you still got that 5% risk. It is wind driven. Red area, 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. 15% risk of that in the yellow area. And then the hail threat, 2 areas to watch that has a more elevated risk. 15% risk of hail here, 15% risk of hail there. Southeast today, really the only thing worth mentioning is just some tropical downpours across Florida, southern Georgia, maybe even the low country of South Carolina, maybe even in southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, and southeastern Louisiana, where you continue to have a tropical air mass in place. And this could, linger around throughout the late evening, overnight hours. But guys, outside of that, I mean, we could get a storm around the Charleston area, wee hours in the morning, tomorrow morning. Outside of that, guys, I mean, pretty calm weather. Most of the area will stay dry. I wish we can get some more rain at my house, but, just got to wait. But a pretty decent day across the southeast. The northeast, quiet day. You're going to get your 15 seconds of fame here. The only thing we're watching is some showers drifting into Ontario and Quebec. And some of these showers could greet you guys across the Adirondacks, Telk Hill Plateau for tomorrow morning. But today, beautiful day. No weather to speak on at all. The south central U.S., for the most part, it'll be a day. I'll tell you that. It's hard to say a nice day when the temperatures are going to be so hot. But once again, a hot, pretty much dry day. Shower and storm activity possible in New Mexico. We'll get some nasty storms that'll be possible in the panhandle of Oklahoma, southwestern Kansas, southeastern Colorado. Please be mindful of these storms. And then we'll get these storms up here in northern Missouri, southern Iowa that we'll watch out for. And we'll continue just to kind of get some moisture kind of around this kind of stronger ridge influence down here in the south central U.S. So we'll watch for that moisture right in here, up into there. But all in all, today, it's a pretty quiet in the southern plains. Once you get into Kansas, it gets a little bit different. And we'll actually zoom into Kansas here. As you can tell, very isolated, but could be very strong thunderstorms. We got some storms popping out popping up just outside of Topeka, Kansas City. Storms getting close to the Goodland area, Colby area. Watch out for this discrete cell outside of Dodge City. But they could really be anywhere, guys. But much more of an isolated threat here in Kansas. But whoever gets hit by one of these storms, it could pack a punch. So be mindful of that. And you look at the updraft velocity swath for this area. Does indicate some rotating updrafts with some of the storms that do form out here. Now, the north central U.S., a whole lot of rain this morning. More will develop in central sections of Iowa by midday. That's why you continue to have that slight risk of flash flooding. Look at these storms surging through Iowa. Not only will we get rain, but it'll be heavy too. We're getting some widespread rain across northern lower Michigan, a little bit of shower activity in the UP of Michigan, and then more of this rain begins to take over more of Wisconsin. And then this evening, getting into the UP, where you'll start to deal with a lot of rain late tonight. And then we'll get some storms that will surge through northern Missouri, throughout the northern half of Illinois late tonight, and then weekend by the time we get into tomorrow morning. But a closer look at the main threat area for today across the U.S. As we are starting to get into this afternoon, you got to watch for the southern flank of these storms. Not as much when you get deeper further north into Iowa. The southern flank of these storms south of Des Moines, these could produce some tornadoes today, damaging winds, all these storms right in here in the southeastern Iowa. And you got to watch for any of these discrete storms that form in northern Missouri too, around 7 to 8 p.m. All these storms could produce damaging winds, large hail, and a more elevated tornado risk. And then eventually all this energy continues to move across northern Missouri into western Illinois, northern Illinois. Well, we could get some thunderstorms late tonight, maybe, as far east as Chicago. Updraft velocity swath with this, actually we can look right here, does indicate those rotating updrafts in southern Iowa. This is the most concerned area I would think today. So please be mindful of that tornado threat in southern Iowa. And then we do look at the surface winds here. I'll back it up here. And look at here. We could get some 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts with some of these storms in southern Iowa, northern Missouri, and even back into Kansas too. The western U.S., kind of the same pattern. Pop-up showers and storms across areas of Arizona, New Mexico. And then we'll do it again tomorrow. I know I went through that very quick, but kind of the same pattern you've been dealing with for like the last, 1 to 2 weeks. Could get some storms that kind of cruise through northern Montana in the form of some shower storm activity today also. So we'll watch for that. But temperatures, nice day across the eastern U.S. Drier air, hotter, more uncomfortable once you get into the southern plains and the deep south, especially as far west as you get in the deep south into Mississippi, Louisiana, even Alabama and Tennessee. Very, very hot today. And then the heat is starting to build into the southwest. Pretty comfortable in the northern tier of the country, though. Sorry I rushed through that, guys. It's tough to just give all the information here. There's so much to speak on. But God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. And we'll take one last look at this, see if we have some updating information. And we do not. So this might upgrade to 170, 175 mile per hour hurricane. We'll see what happens. But God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. And we'll do it again this evening.